Hello, I'm Andrew Olsavicky, a creator with Pittverse. Avenging Back to the Future by redoing the Avengers. There's a little bit of controversy involved in this. You see, Disney rejected doing Back to the Future because of the incestual implications in the first movie where Marty's mom is kind of making out with her son, or tries to, or whatever. But Disney also owns Star Wars, and if you look at that movie, there is a certain level of incest in that, especially if you watch episode 6, then episode 5, and you realize, and you see how Luke and Leia got along before they realized they were brother and sister. And I don't know. So it's like, they're, as I like to say, they're the pot calling the grass green, which in my opinion is less derogatory than saying the pot calling the kettle black. Granted, it might be a little more mature, but it doesn't sound as and considering green is a secondary color, I'd say that's even better, because secondary colors, for the record, are mixtures of two or more primary colors. Green, in this case, being a mixture of blue and yellow, which are the two of the three primary colors, red being the third one, which is therefore green's opposite, just as yellow's opposite is purple, because purple is made of red and blue, and how orange is blue's opposite, because orange is made of red and yellow. So it's just a bit of an artistic thing, and I've always had a thing for art, so, I'm certainly a supporter of doing art. I just think that we shouldn't do art that is rude. And in my opinion, what they did with this art in the Avengers is rude. And there are and one of the biggest issues I have is that here's what I say. Disney killed Iron Man. And that's wrong, especially since not only is he married now, but he has a daughter. And in my opinion, if Disney is willing to change the ending of a story like The Little Mermaid, which in their version is nothing like it is in the original Hans Christian Andersen version, to make the story happier and better, in my opinion, then they should be making Marvel do the same for their movies. They should make the endings happier. Granted, I'm not a big fan of the idea of happily ever after, because to me that sounds kind of like someone taking happy pills, in my opinion. In my opinion, a better way to end it would be, and henceforth they were living a good life. And with that, there's a Bruce Hornsby song called Living the Good Life that they could actually play after they say that, which would be an excellent way to end every movie, it'd certainly pass on one of my favorite piano players. I don't want to go through all the details, but basically I want to state out some of the things that I think they have to fix. For starters, they have to fix some of the deaths or assumed deaths, like Iron Man and Black Widow and Vision and Gamora, and in some sense Captain America, who doesn't technically die, but as far as I'm concerned is a deserter. Now, for those of you who don't know what a deserter is, that's someone who's in like a military organization who abandons their military outfit in one way or another. And that's kind of what I see Captain America having done by not going back in time and not returning to the future. And in my opinion, that promotes the idea that soldiers should desert, which they should not. And, and in my opinion, why should he get to desert when a lot of other soldiers are often punished for deserting? In some ways, I find it may not sound appropriate, but I find appropriate, one of which is a line from the series Blackadder by Stephen Fry in his character of General Hagg, who says to Blackadder that he needs Blackadder's help to shoot some deserters in one episode in the 4th season. One of the things I think Black Widow should not have been killed off is because, well, frankly, I think what should have happened is that they should have had it be that if anybody should have died trying to get the Soul Stone, which is what the whole reason she died, is that Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, shouldn't have been blipped out. He and Captain America should have gone to that planet, and he should have sacrificed himself, which would have put him out of his misery. It would have avenged Iron Man's parents, and it would have it would have just made things a lot better, because whereas with Black Widow, I grant you she's doing heroic things, but she's, as we've seen in her movie, she's done a lot of rather horrifying things when she worked for the KGB. And, well, there's a line in the 2000 version of The Count of Monte Cristo in which Edmond Dantes says about his enemies, quote, "Death is too good for them. They must suffer as I have suffered. They must see their world, all they hold dear, ripped from them as it was ripped from me," end quote. And that's kind of how I think we should treat what Black Widow's going through. She shouldn't be alive because she deserves to live. She should be alive because she doesn't deserve an easy, quick death. She should be making up for more of her mistakes, and that should go on for a long time. And to be honest, there is another thing, and I think that on the note of the aforementioned Captain America, one of the things that is never mentioned, but I feel is prudent to the character, is that by being Captain America, he not only represents the best of America, but some of the darker periods of our history as well. And one of the things I know may sound a little racist here is that I have with a black guy being Captain America is that I don't think it should be a black man's responsibility to take on the burdens that come with the dark side of being an American. That should be a white man's responsibility because, frankly, we deserve it, I guess. That's the best way I can put it. I don't know how many people are going to react to this, but that's just my opinion. And I don't know. I just, so there's a lot of controversy with that character, and more than even has been mentioned up to this date, even by other people. So, yeah, we got to do something about that. Anyway, that covers the deaths. As for why the actors themselves quit doing these things, if they did, I don't know, frankly, at this point, I think that, we should, if the people are demanding they return to their roles, they should return to their roles because it's their responsibilities to give the fans what they want. And if they don't, then we should be able to do something to make them do it. And I don't know. Then there are the other. Then there are some of the other things, like how some of the villains come to an end. Like I don't know. I really think they screwed up with the whole with what happened with Thanos, because that was just a big mishap. And this whole thing about the blip where half the universe is wiped out of existence for 5 years, only to come back 5 years later unchanged. I mean, that's just plain screwy, and frankly, I found it stupid. And also, as I said, I think that the whole thing with Iron Man's daughter growing up without a father is very bad, especially if this is a movie owned by Disney, and, that's something else that should be fixed. And, it's like, and with Robert Downey Jr. actually wanting to return to his role, they should let him. And I don't know, frankly, I've heard that they want Tom Cruise to be Iron Man now. Frankly, anyone else who tries to portray Iron Man beyond Robert Downey Jr. should be considered there's an old cartoon by animator Chuck Jones called The Bear That Wasn't. It's about a bear who everybody thinks is not a bear, but they think is just a silly man who needs a shave and wears a fur coat. Well, in this case, Tom Cruise or anyone else who takes on the role of Iron Man is not Iron Man. They're just another silly man who does need a shave and is wearing an iron coat. And, as for, basically, I don't think they should kill off that character for any reasons other than what I call the Coach Kroger effect. And if I may explain that, the Coach Kroger effect is something I have named for two characters who were killed off in their respective series for the same reason. The actor who played them in our world passed away in reality. The first one being the Nicholas Costal, I don't know, whatever his last name was, who played Coach on the sitcom Cheers, who's one of the earliest examples of this, I believe, although maybe not necessarily the earliest. And another one being the character of Dr. Charles Kroger, as played by the late actor Stanley Kamel in the satire series Monk, who I've always cited out as being the therapist who all therapists, real or fake, should hold themselves a candle to, because seeing how he handles things in the series Monk, as well as Monk's new therapist, Dr. Nevin Bell, I'd say that other therapists should be more like that, because, frankly, being so uptight and professional, that's just not a good way to do therapy. You know, granted, you should maintain a certain level of professionalism, but you should treat people like people, and you should deal with them like people, not treat them like an accountant treats someone he's auditing. And a lot of the therapists I've had in the past, not all of them, but some of them have treated me like that, and others that haven't. Some of them were just, well, I don't know, they just weren't very compatible with me, but that's another issue. I don't know, if Stan Lee's intention was to create such a controversial universe, I think, frankly, it needs to be changed, especially now that he's gone, and it should be put in the hands of someone who can create comic books that have a more positive outlook, you know, stories like this who have a more positive outlook. And frankly, I think that could be applied to pretty much any movie, because there have been a lot of other movies before this that have also, some of which were actually made by Disney, that have actually had similar outcomes, which I feel are wrong and should be corrected. Don't kill off a character for any reason other than the Coach Kroger effect, because frankly, I think if an actor's alive, so should the character be. And, you know, they should keep granted, you don't have to show them all the time. Like, it's one of the things about the newest Creed movie, Creed 3, is they don't have Rocky in it, but that's okay, because that just means that Adonis Creed is standing on his own as a character now. And, you know, they haven't, presumably Rocky is still alive, so they should keep it that way, because frankly, I think that, you know, people were kind of upset when they killed off Burgess Meredith's character in Rocky 3, and I don't know, I just think that, you know, as long as, you know, if they should keep characters alive as long as the actor's alive, and they should only kill them off when the actor who plays them dies. And as for some of these TV series where they kill off a character, I mean, there are better ways to handle it than simply killing off a character to get rid of them. And, you know, I mean, and they seem to do it kind of well in the series Monk when they got rid of Sharona. But although, for the record, that whole issue was a little more controversial than I'd care to get into at the moment. But nonetheless, everything seemed to turn out all right with how they handled it. And since they also handled the death of Stanley Cannell as Dr. Kroger pretty well, I'd say that was well handled for a series like this. And one of the things, as a member of the neurodiverse community, I like is to see a heroic protagonist like Monk, who has these issues, doing the good things. As for Back to the Future and the Avengers, I think Back to the Future was kind of hurt by the Avengers, and I think that's wrong. I think Disney should acknowledge this, and I think they should. And, you know, one of the bigger issues I have with this whole time travel is that they claim that in the movie The Avengers Endgame, they claim that time travel can't change the past. Well, in the first Doctor Strange movie, Doctor Strange does use the time stone to change history in a way, and so that would seem to be a contradiction. And so, in my opinion, and while I admit changing history can be kind of a tricky business, I still say it's the best option they have at this point, because trying to do things going forward, unless they plan to blip out the other half of the universe for 5 years, I don't think, you know, that they should. I think that whole blip thing should never have happened. Well, the main idea is that we'd be fixing the Avengers and we'd be getting justice to Back to the Future. And I don't know. On a personal note, I'd like to say that despite all the other trilogies that have been made, including all the various Star Wars trilogies that have been made, I still say that the best trilogy of them all is Back to the Future. Although, for the record, I will go on to state that I don't necessarily believe that I don't like to say that anything is better than something else, because, quite frankly, saying that one person, one group, or one thing is better than something else promotes an unhealthy sense of inequality that, in my opinion, is part of what led to the downfall of the Romanov family in Russia. You know, it's like if they can do it in Doctor Strange, they should be able to do it in the Avengers. I'm sure it's not going to be safe, but still, it's better that, you know, I'd rather see the universe have a moment of instability. And frankly, I don't know, I wasn't too thrilled about the ending of Doctor Strange either, but frankly, that's something else I think should be fixed in another thing. And it should also fall in line with how I think the villains in any movie should all get burned. In fact, one idea I have for the Avengers is that at some point, a character kind of based on myself, who I call Mr. Destiny, because he alters the destiny, and he could be the one who changes how history has played out in the entire Marvel multiverse. One of the things he does is he's able to hold up his hand, kind of shine a light on anyone he's holding it up to, and in doing so is able to show them the truth of their existence in this fact that they're just comic book characters in a movie. And that, you know, because I don't know, I mean, it's like if Fred Rogers was willing to show that his own show was just a show, surely it's not wrong to show the people that these movies are just movies. You know, it's like one of the things I've always admired about Mystery Science Theater 3000, another great sci-fi series, is that they say, quote, "If you're wondering how he eats and breathes and other science facts, repeat to yourself, it's just a show, I should really just relax," end quote. With kids watching so many of these series and getting so hooked on them, we should remind them that this is all just fiction, and even more so, we should remind the adult fans who are getting hooked on all of this. And for the moment, that's what I have to say about Back to the Future and the Avengers.